homework for Thursday has many, many pieces. One of them is what you already did in class, which was all of the 6 iterations, 3 for each, a floor plan and section, showing a human figure in the section so that we see how high things are, and showing where you're putting it, where, if anywhere, where you are placing things like a loft or interior rooms inside of those 2 modular spaces. Now, I outlined some steps that I wanted you guys to take in doing this, okay? So I want to make sure that one thing is clear. If this is the block that I have, I want it to be clear that what I'm asking you to do is to maintain one flat part, okay, before you make your cutaway. So this part is still vertical, okay? Many of you are not doing that. You're basically cutting it from corner to corner. When you do that, you really lose sight of what you've drawn, okay? So let me see if I can get this darn pen to darken this up some. So all of this becomes dashed because this is what I removed. Okay? So I need you guys to have 3 iterations, 3 good-looking iterations sketched, right? That are no, let's make it 4. So 2 of each, where it leans in and leans out. Okay? Where you are thinking about the articulation of adding the windows, the graphics, maybe an antenna or something of that nature. All right, you can use the 2 examples that I've got on the board there. You can use those as like a good road path to where you're going. Try to remember your lessons from Design 1, the repetitive cuts. Okay, so that's one of the things that I need you to do for Thursday. Second thing that I need you to do is I need you to create a structural column plan that, when you look at your labs, will allow there to be 6 feet and 6 feet and 6 feet all the way around this thing, right? So what you got to learn is that the column above, it's got to be 6 feet up. The next one of these is 6 feet over, and so I'm sorry, this is the beam above. The column can be in the middle, okay? And the modules are going to rest on a beam. Okay?
How thick are the beams or columns?
Let's use these as examples right here. So let's just say that the columns are 2 foot square or no, not 2 foot square. So let's say that the columns are, let's assume that they are 1 foot square and that the beams are 2 feet deep. Okay? But the beams can only span, right? We already established that these steel beams can only span about 35 feet, right? And so pretty much we've come to the conclusion that your columns, right, are going to have to be in between every one of your modules. Okay? And remember, they're going to span across the river. All right? In addition to that, I need you guys to do a preliminary layout, and you guys can do this in the computer using your massing model, of what your bridging structure looks like and where the walkways are for the bridging structure. Okay, that needs to be printed to 11 by 17 and brought in. Put the structure on its own layer and the program on a separate layer, so that you can print the structure to 11 by 17, print the program to 11 by 17. Okay? Any questions? Yes, ma'am.
Preliminary model.
The preliminary model they're doing is a layout of all of the research office areas So again, we're looking at that program that's under this model somewhere. So on page 3, part B is the research building that goes from one side of the river to the other. It is going to be a very simplistic linear arrangement. All right. So I want to see how many levels you're planning to put this thing on and where you're putting all of these labs. These are just blocks. Remembering that things got to have 6 feet between them, and that you got to be able to, that a grown man's got to be able to walk on the roof of this to change pipe locations and stuff. Okay? All right, any questions? No? All right, one last thing that I need, oh, go ahead, I'm sorry.
The space in between is going to be 6 feet plus the square feet of the column?
Nope.
Or just 6 feet?
No, because if I have a thing that looks like this, right, and then I have another one that looks like this, if I have a column right here and a column back here, for the most part, that leaves me 6 feet, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So if I'm a human being, I can walk in here and drill a hole through here and drill a hole over here and run a pipe from here to here, right?
Okay.
So the distance between the surfaces of the labs is 6 feet. The columns exist between them. Okay? Once you finish your three-dimensional version of the lab, you are going to create make 2D versions of each level. Okay? All right. So, understand that you're going to be printing all this stuff. It has to be here by the beginning of class. You cannot walk in after class has ended, as someone just did, and that no longer is your grade predicated upon the thing that you turn in at final presentation. Your grade will be based on each one of the grades that you get for every one of these things. And we already did the math. Even if you pull a 100% at the end, if you got C's all the way along, you're going to get a C. Is that clear? So we talked about that in the earlier on. All right, is there any questions about let's do. This is all being recorded. Terumi's going to translate it and make sure she puts it in Canvas.
By levels, do you mean that the whole lab area, is it all one level, or is it gonna say like the long, like the lab C is like that long one?
Trevor, this is your design, so you have to tell me how many levels it's on. I can't tell you how many levels it's on. Okay?
Yeah.
So it's all going to be based on how you lay it out.
Okay.
Okay? Remember that the offices and the laboratories, the individual research labs, need to be kind of adjacent to each other. A researcher should not have to walk out of their office and walk down 100 feet to get to their research lab. They should be right adjacent to each other, either accessed from one room to the next or accessed across the main corridor. Okay? Other questions? Huh?
What if the laboratory's downstairs?
No, the laboratories need to be on the same level, directly adjacent, or across from each other. I thought I made that clear, but I'll say it again. They have to be on the same level, directly next to each other, or across from each other. Right. Other questions? All right, I'll see you guys all on Thursday. Understand, I will be collecting all this printed information. It's all going to be on 11 by 7. The stuff you're doing in Rhino will be printed to 11 by 17. The other stuff will all be hand sketch 8.5 by 11. I'll be collecting for a grade.